What is going on, folks? Welcome back to the Multi-Faceted channel, and as usual, the home for breakthroughs and the haven for all that is avant-garde and crazy unusual. And today's 10th episode, it's intellectuality time, it's Aristotle's time, the father of philosophy in its plain productivity and provision of an all-time originality package. This huge caliber that goes by the name Aristotle and the era of the 384 BC to 322 BC, or simply a lifetime of knowledge of 62 years, and even taught substantially by Plato. And so we have a bigger proportion one after another. We're not off for an obituary or an encomia of Aristotle himself, but we are simply exalting here one of the biggest figures of ethics, philosophy, politics, and psychology. And still this day, the platform he laid over when he spent his performing in creating tons of ideas and principles too, they were and will always still be behemoth for as long as humanity still survives on account of Aristotle's multiple given works of this time and in any given time as well. And so, folks, based on what I've managed to get out of this very little here article before you, it's absolutely nothing, which is also one of Aristotle's biggest theories that we're tackling today, and that is causality. And so without pushing through my analysis here first, I truly recommend reading this one out too, for it's a huge as ever could be thought of. This article right here before you, please check it out, because I'm not going to share anything with you except for very little, absolutely little. Okay, it's original and also up to snuff. Also, as you might know for sure, the tons and endless of authors, writers, and even philosophers, they must have discussed his causality theory and redefined it either thoroughly or even partially. And basically speaking, Aristotle argued that there is a fundamental source of becoming in everything, that everything tends towards some end or form. It's kind of vague to say. And so Aristotle's point on things being causal, and for me, as I like to call it in my own writings, state of happiness. No further beyondness for it, folks, is just a term I like to use a lot in my own writings. Alrighty then, the sharing of knowledge. Let's have a little discussion, please. On account of beginnings, cessations, and even repercussions too, are of thus ideas that reinvigorate the meaningful approaches of effects and their causes into a submissive backbone of either way knowledge, or rather peculiarity of knowing more than possible, such universality we seem to live by, bound by, within, and across too. As to Aristotle's approach to this mechanism of causality, it came vividly to maintain an approach of logic and scientific dilettantism. And so, these logical and scientific approaches, according to him, supposedly being a dilettante kind of a point into speculating the state of happiness by engaging in a universal certainty that demonstrates in behemoth appreciations the causality of reasoning, of every single act or state of happiness, like we said before. Qualities like the what, the how, the reason, the reasoning too, their primary, sudden, and causal too, almost like a mirage of thoughtfulness and a cognitive realization to each, listen well, each rhodomentating picture of occurrences, or as opposed to some happenings come to arrogantly let us think we're in total control of any universal act of cause. We ain't, for it's universal. The judicious, the aftermath, and the inner imagery of each figure of foibles or idiosyncrasies we seem to have, they all come in the very center of trying to comprehend profoundly the universally causal relationship amongst more than one simple head start to the other one. It's just all linked and cannot possibly be unified unless stratified, even to an ordinary point of view that's not Aristotelian at all. Do you see where my explaining is kind of going? I think it's all put together like a nexus, N-E-X-U-S. And so after Aristotle's for causality, the material cause, formal, efficient, and the final cause, as to here, folks, once again, I am so not going to share a thing or two with you, for it'll be too much of a spoiler, especially if this thing is too big to read. And of course, it's Aristotle's work, so I'll just have to tease you no more and get you hyped for one hell of a read, folks, believe me. Especially with the little of my research over how Aristotle did think about such grandeur of causes being jammed into 4 types. It's just damn crazy. Because really, folks, the relationship between the cause and effect and its explicitly conspicuous exposure to the nature of causality, also in its God-given picture of total comprehension to the mind, is just a universal regulation that establishes the bigger picture of any problematic given to our foibles or idiosyncrasies of judging something. Anything that has an effect and thus a cause kind of a mechanism too. And so this thing is getting me super hyped. Oh my god, as the readership of this article right here before you, I think I'm teasing you too much. I think I'm doing a good job too. So it's not just a must, it's an onus, O-N-U-S. It's a duty and a responsibility for you, especially if you're as an ardent as I am as of this man's work too. Oh my god, I'm far more hyped than ever. And also the four causality, material, formal, efficient, and final cause. I mean, they are humongous, and I just made them even simple and sweet to absorb in this very big boy here. And man, you're missing out a lot to read and comparing still what you folks and viewers possibly have of Aristotle's causality. It's just one hell of a blend to make too. It's one hell of a mixture to make, believe me. Because documenting some great deals, I mean, of multifaceted and newly unfolded notions or ideas on how causal a situation can actually be, however speculatively, so it's always based on speculations or assumptions. It's just a must for the little mindset that is humanity, as well as the universal caliber, and both their role in squeezing a clarity out of random happenings. These random happenings, they wrap up what we presume or guess or even speculate. I mean, the whole ergonomically put together representatives of the virality of existence or power of existence. Although for this philosophical existence that always come with a verdict, like a decision either made by us or not, it's just out there to perceive. However, we seem to please our convictions with, either psychologically, philosophically, mentally, and even spiritually too. As long as making a decision over entitling something, realizing its causes from all perspective, for instance, here, still based on Aristotle's causality, guys, material, formal, efficient, and lastly, final cause. And all the way to the effect, raising yet another piles of speculations too. It starts with speculation, it ends with speculation too. One is pretty much in a confusion of not arguing, but musing and pondering deeply, or even contemplating what Aristotle documented through his own perspective, and thus was the four causality. And that of what's being available here, folks, as it shouldn't go to waste. Have a pleasant read finding out all about it. Because folks, seriously, eventually, I mean, these foibles, demeanors, or even idiosyncrasies we human beings seem to have as humans, and although in coincidental causes and effects kind of a respect, you know, they often or maybe fully foreshadow or signal like a vague point of view that spreads the universal complicity of whatever that's causal into our minds. It's eventually for a philosophical mindset to ken, K-E-N. It's a verb for know. Beyond the ken of knowledge that every bit of something heads actually for ends, goals, purposes, or objectives. They all come to a point which I recently called cessation. An act of congregation, relevance, sublime acts of continuity, and a lot more to go. As it is a super subjective perspective to look at too, you know? It's just my point of view after all, with precise preferences and that of inferences too. By the end of the day, that's how it goes. Just a plain guess, nothing more, folks, over how probably Aristotle did comprehend a very authentically immortal caliber out of causal characterizations, and how he intertwined them with reality's actual happenings into dramatic and melodramatic views too. Plus, still, most significantly, guys, Aristotle's wittiness and sagacity to the matter being thought of at the time. Alright then, folks, that's it for today's video. I hope it didn't go that far for clarifying the man's biggest theory of all time, causality, as I'm pretty sure I undulated your feelings with desires for a read and a new kind of a traditionally focused philosophy explaining for the causality here on my blog. So once again, go check it out, guys. It's all in there for what I've been saying and more. I also hope for this episode to have been fully injected into your better approach of the most salient comprehensions of why Aristotle created such a grandeur of causes, piling up universally in a substantial nexus. Alright, viewers, till next time, we have another interesting, intriguing subject where all your minds will be blown away, and also open up for new perspective and more originalities to come, unprecedented and crazy. Join us with your ideas, English language fanatics, with the philosophical calibers too concerning this very point we've been discussing, as well as the article. Please go ahead and have a read. I truly hope you had it all figured out on the keywords too, and the ideas, and how this complexity of ideas of Aristotle's causality had your admiration probably engorged. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I welcome all your comments, and that of crazy ones too. Subscribe to the channel, folks, and make sure you hit thumbs up for more madness and craziness around the way. And only way they're coming. As for these originality articles are to be examined and explained even more. Have it good, and goodbye.